Hi, and welcome to the Arsenal Circle. Here to talk to you today about the UEFA Champions League group stages. I'm going to be predicting the group stages. There are a lot of potential winners and favourites for this competition. It's going to be a big, interesting competition this season, with a lot of favourites. Favourites in each group, if you ask me. My team being one of them, maybe not. But statistically speaking, I think we're the 4 favourites to win the Champions League, Arsenal. So, I mean, we have to take that, and hopefully we can use the momentum to go far in this competition. Today I will just be predicting the group stages, and first, second, Europa League spot, and out entirely. So we're going to start off with Group A. Now, I think Bayern Munich are the clear favourites, and it's just sheerly because of how strong their squad is. 9 times in a row they've won the Bundesliga, and there's no signs of slowing down, apart from Dortmund almost challenged for the title last season. But we saw how that went. Bayern Munich, they have a incredibly strong team, and I'm going to keep them in that first position. I do think that they are the sole favourites of that group, and they're going to storm that group. I think they'll take all 6 points, all 18 points, to be honest. I think they'll win every single game, but that's easier said than done. It's very hard to win every single game, but I think they'll beat Man United home and away. I think they'll beat Galatasaray home and away, and I think they'll beat Copenhagen home and away. So, I mean, yeah, that's my opinion, and I do think they have the best squad. Maybe they might struggle with an inexperienced keeper coming in, having to do all that work, but I think they'll be completely fine. They've got a brilliant defense. Their midfield's really solid. Kimmich. Muller's still kicking, and their front three is still strong as ever. New signings being added as well. They look very strong. No signs of slowing down from Bayern Munich. I'm going to put them to top the group. Now in second place I have Manchester United. Now I understand that there has been a slump of form, and going into this video I was thinking about putting Galatasaray in second. I highly respect Galatasaray. Their fans are great. Spamming the comment section of every Instagram post from the Champions League. They really seem to fancy their chances in this Champions League. But it's going to be a really tough group for them, and I think third place is the correct finish for them, and they'll go on to do big things in the Europa League. But the reason I'm putting Manchester United second is, despite the slump in form, they are still Manchester United. They are still a massive presence. Old Trafford is still a difficult place to go to, and if you look at their squad, it's still a brilliant squad. Casemiro, Varane will be coming back, Lisandro Martinez, Rashford. It's a really strong squad, and for them not to get out of their group would be a massive disappointment, and would be grounds for sacking Erik ten Hag, if you ask me. And I do think they've got the squad to go through, so that's why I'm putting Manchester United in second, and in fourth place Copenhagen. They do have a strong team, but I just don't think it's as strong as the other 3. It's as simple as that, really. In Group B, we have my team, Arsenal. Now, I'm going to put us in first place. I think if we don't walk the group, it's quite disappointing. But I do think that we will. In second place, I'll put PSV. Now, I'm going to put us first because I think if you look at Arteta, I think there's going to be a big focus on Europe. This is our first time back in the Champions League. We're going to really, really focus on this competition. I think we're going to have Raya in goal for these games, so that'll be interesting. We'll have a strong back four. We'll really be trying to go far in the Champions League, and I think we have the capacity to do so with the increased squad depth that we have added to the team. In second place, I'm going to put PSV. And the reason I put PSV over Sevilla in second place is, and Lens, so let's not disrespect Lens, is because they looked really strong last season, and I know that they lost a lot of players, but winning the Eredivisie is sorry, not winning the Eredivisie, but competing for the Eredivisie is not an easy task. With the likes of Ajax and Feyenoord won the Eredivisie. My apologies, but PSV, they had a very strong season. And they've qualified for the Champions League, and I think they're going to have a good time in it. I think they'll get to the round of 16, maybe not go much further, but I do think that they will go through. And then in third place, I am going to keep Sevilla. Now, I understand that they've had a really poor start to the season in the La Liga, but I do think that they have enough with their squad to finish in third position. They still are a strong team. They just won the Europa League. It's not like they're a nothing team. And I do think that they will go back into the Europa League, and maybe they'll win it again. Typically, as Sevilla always do. And in 4th place, I'm going to put Lens. Now, this is no disrespect to Lens, and I do appreciate the fact that Lens have made it to the Champions League. They're a very strong team. They had a very strong team, but I think with the losses of players like Fofana is going to be really detrimental to their chances in the Champions League this season. I just don't see them going very far, and I think they'll finish rock bottom of the group and have a really tough time with it. And I'm sorry to say that to Lens fans, because I'm sure they think that they've got a decent chance considering excuse me, a really strong chance considering they have, this is probably the easiest group there for all 4 teams. This is a pretty decent group. All 4 teams will fancy their chances getting out of this group, but I do think that Lens will finish rock bottom. Moving on to Group C. Now, I'm immediately going to put Real Madrid in 1st place. They have added tremendously to their ranks this season. Jude Bellingham for 100 million. He has been brilliant so far. They've got the most insane midfield in the world. Their defense is solid, and their attack shows no signs of slowing down, both literally and physically, and metaphorically. Sorry. Some rapid wingers, and they're gonna be hassle to deal with. I think it's a no-brainer, really. Of course, I'm gonna put Real Madrid in the number 1 spot for Group C. In 2nd position, I'm actually gonna put Union Berlin. Now, that is a really controversial pick, but I think if I went really obvious with the Napoli 2nd, it's a bit boring. I'm going to go a bit outrageous with some of these picks, and I don't even think it's that outrageous to put Union Berlin 2nd. It's their first time in the Champions League, and if it's not, it's their first time in ages in the Champions League. I'm pretty sure it is. They've got a great story, and I really think they'll come into this competition gunning to get through to the round of 16. Imagine the scenes, and you know how great German fans are. I'd love to see them in the round of 16. I think they'd be brilliant. A brilliant place to go to, and I'd like to get drawn against them. I'd love to play them. But yeah, I just think Union Berlin, they just have the team to do it. They've been so strong. They've pushed their way up into the Bundesliga. And I think they'll take a real focus to this competition, because it shows how far their club has come. And I think they'll just nudge in the 2nd spot over Napoli. Now, I'm going to put Napoli 3rd, and I understand that they have kept Victor Osimhen, they have kept Vicha Kvaratskhelia, and they have kept a lot of their big players that won them the Scudetto last season. But I just think they're going to fall off this season. I just have this feeling with Napoli, and I think it's going to be the same in Serie A. They're just not going to do as well. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm a bit deluded for that, but I'm just denying the fact that Napoli have a great football team with a bunch of young players. I do think the loss of Kim Min-jae is going to be painful one for them, and I just have this suspicion that Napoli are going to fall off a bit this season, and that's why I'm putting them in 3rd. But I do think they'll fancy their chances in the Europa League. And in 4th position, I have Braga. Not much to say, just don't think they're as good as the rest, and I think they'll finish in 4th position. Now, for Group D, I'm going to put Inter Milan in 1st position. This is because, obviously, Inter Milan, on paper, have the strongest squad there. They are the best team. I feel like they always get drawn with Benfica in the group stages. I don't know if that's just me, or that was just last season. But yeah, I think Inter Milan are gonna not walk the group, but I think they'll be comfortable favourites, and they'll get through the group pretty easily. And so for that reason, I'm gonna put them 1st. Obviously, they have a really strong squad. Signing Sommer to replace Anand. They've made the correct placements and adjustments wherever they need. Nico Varela is a brilliant midfielder, and they're just adding to their ranks all over the pitch. I think Cuadrado joined them from Juventus. They've got a decent core of players, and I think Inter Milan will have a bit of a better season than they did last season, which they'll be a bit disappointed with. Even though obviously they got to the Champions League final, but I think in terms of Serie A and just in general, I don't think they would have had as good of a season as they would have hoped. And I think they'll bounce back a bit this season and have a decent season. And part of that will be them winning Group D. In 2nd position, I have gone with Benfica. Now, I'm going to stick with Benfica. Now, I do think that they have one of the stronger teams in Portugal. Of course, they have a very strong team for a Portuguese team, and it's just I think going to be slightly better than RB Salzburg and Real Sociedad. Not much to say about it really. Just that's just my preference. I think Benfica will go through. In third position, I am going to put Real Sociedad. Now, I will admit this is biased because Kieran Tierney is at Real Sociedad, and I love him. So that's the only reason I'm putting them above Salzburg. Although, to be honest, it could go either way. Any three of these teams could qualify, and it wouldn't surprise me. I think this is a really tight group. It wouldn't even surprise me if Inter Milan were down in third or something, and Benfica and Salzburg went through or something like that. I do think that every single team there has the capacity to qualify, and that'll be a very interesting group. I think it'll be a dark horse in terms of group to watch. But that's my prediction for Group D. Now for Group E, we have a very, very interesting group. We have Atletico Madrid, who are probably the favourites, with Feyenoord, who have just come off of the back of a brilliant season. We have Lazio, who have had a great season in Serie A, and we have Celtic, who had an incredible season in Scotland. All four teams could go through, and all four teams could get knocked out. And I did say I wasn't going to be really boring with these predictions. That's why I'm going to keep Feyenoord first. I think they had a brilliant season in the Eredivisie, and they will ride the momentum of that season. Straight top of the first pot in the Champions League, and they will just edge out the group to win the group. And I think it will be a brilliant moment for the Feyenoord fans winning their group and qualifying for the round of 16 of the Champions League. So for that reason, I've got Feyenoord first. In second position, I'm actually going to put Celtic. I think it's a bit outrageous. Because I think they probably by far got the worst squad there. Now, that's no insult to Celtic. They've still got a great squad, but out of the four teams, I think they've got the worst squad. But I do think they'll go through just some sort of miracle. They just kind of give me the vibe, Celtic. They have obviously lost key stars in Jota and stuff like that, but I don't know. We're going a bit wild. And it doesn't stop there, because I'm not even going to put Lazio in third. I'm not even going to put Atletico Madrid in third. I'm going to put them in fourth. Now, I understand that Atletico Madrid have a really strong squad, but I just think, considering last season, I think Lazio, they know they're going to fall off a bit in this Serie A this season, because the likes of Juventus, AC, Inter Milan, Napoli, and all these other teams are going to be fighting for top four, and I think Lazio will struggle to stay in that top four, and for that reason, will just try and edge out, try and keep their thing going in Europe, and they'll just about make the Europa League spots. I don't know, for some reason I'm just putting Atletico Madrid in fourth. It's just my vibe, it's just my feeling, and that's what I'm going to go for Group E. It's a bit controversial, but I hope someone agrees with me. And now for the big one, the Group of Death. We have PSG, Borussia Dortmund, AC Milan, and Inter Milan. I'm going to put them in order, and then I'm going to explain my reasons. So I'm going to go with AC Milan in first. Now, AC Milan, I think people are sleeping on AC Milan. It's almost as if just because they've had a couple seasons in Europe where they haven't done crazy stuff, that they're not the 7-time UCL winning side. They have a brilliant team. They brought in 10 signings, and all of them seem to be balling out at the moment. All of them doing the jobs that they were brought in to do. They have incredible squad depth, and I think they'll go on to win the Scudetto this season. I think they have the squad to do it. I think they'll walk it, to be honest. AC Milan have such a strong squad this season. It's a joke, and people that are saying they won't get through this group are honestly just out of their mind. I think AC Milan, they haven't shown their presence in Europe recently, but they've got this young squad raring to go. Pioli is back doing a great job, and I think that they will win this Champions League group. They will come in with so much momentum, so much fire. The San Siro will be buzzing, and I just think it will be a pleasure to watch AC Milan this season in the Champions League. In second, I have Borussia Dortmund. Now, this is coming off the back of an incredible season from them as well. They have a brilliant side as well. They're going to do decently in the Bundesliga again. I don't think they'll win the Bundesliga, but they definitely have the squad to maybe do so. Challenge Bayern Munich for it at least. But I do think they'll come second. They've made some great signings. They've got young stars like Moukoko coming through the ranks, and I do think they'll beat out PSG in their quest for Champions League glory. In third position, I have PSG. Now, whilst I understand that PSG have brought in some incredible players, I just think it'll be a massive letdown season for them. I think it's going to be another one of those seasons where PSG are hoping with all these signings they're going to do something, and they'll get knocked out in the group stage. I just don't see what everyone else sees in this PSG team. I think the signings they've made, whilst great, they've spent too much money on and are not world-class signings. They're not the signings that PSG should be making. If Real Madrid made these signings, everyone would be questioning it. But because PSG have signed Kolo Muani for 70, 80 million, it's a great signing. If Real Madrid made that signing, it would not be a great signing. If Arsenal made that signing, it would be ridiculed in the papers. There's a difference. PSG have not got the squad to be going through to the round of 16, in my opinion. Not against this group. I think if they weren't in the group of death, I'd probably put them to go through. But they are, and they are the worst team on paper. That in my not the worst team on paper, but they aren't the best team on paper in my opinion. And I just think, you know, there's just something about AC Milan and Dortmund, that fan culture that will bring them through as opposed to PSG, which they don't have. And obviously also the transfer business in the transfer window has been more effective from AC Milan and Borussia Dortmund than it has been for PSG, and for that reason I'm putting them in third. In fourth I have Newcastle. Now I kind of hate to do this because I know that this is their first time back in the Champions League in a long while, and they'll be fancying their chances to try and get through to the group stage, although Dan Burn marking Mbappe does seem like a scary sight. But I don't think Newcastle will go through. I don't even think they'll stand a chance in this group. I think they'll really get bullied, especially with them having to focus on the Premier League a lot more. They've had a pretty poor start to the season in comparison to last season, and I think they're going to struggle a lot more this season, considering all the teams in the Premier League are doing so much better. You know, it's a strong competition in the Premier League this season. Man City, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool coming back into the mix. Man United aren't going to be this bad for too long. I would say Chelsea, but they're Chelsea, so I'm not going to say them. But, you know, there's a lot of competition in the Premier League. This is Brighton. A lot of competition in the Premier League this season. And for Newcastle to finish top four again, they're going to have to put all of their eggs in one basket. I think they'll either do really well in the Champions League or decently in the Premier League. Decently in the Champions League or decently in the Premier League. And the other one they'll kind of mess up, and I think this is the one they'll mess up. They'll mess up the Champions League. I don't think they've got the squad depth for it. I don't think they've got the squad for it, full stop. And I just think that they'll finish fourth. They won't be able to hack it in Group F, and that's no disrespect to Newcastle. I'm impressed by what they've done. You know, it's crazy what money can do, obviously. But no, Newcastle. I'm sure they'll be able to get back into the Champions League. Maybe not next season, but in a few seasons' time, and give it another crack. But this season, I'm just going to say that they finished fourth, and that's just my opinion. Now, Group G, we have the inevitable Manchester City batter everyone group, in which they always get a Red Bull team, they always get young boys, and they always get some other random team. So obviously Manchester City are going to win this group. They'll batter RB Leipzig 6-0. They'll batter Red Star Belgrade 6-0. They'll batter Young Boys 6-0. Pause. But I do think that RB Leipzig will cause more problems for them this season. I do think it'll be a bit more difficult, but I do think that Manchester City, come on, man, they have the best team in the world. They're European champions. They're going to win this group. I don't think I need to justify myself. Second position, I'm keeping the whole group as it is, by the way. Second position, RB Leipzig. Now, they have actually made some pretty good signings, Okafor being one of them, and just some other brilliant talents that they brought in. They are obviously a decent team. They are forced to be reckoned with. They did really well in the Bundesliga last season, qualifying for the Champions League. And, you know, they'll get to the round of 16 and they'll get knocked out like they always do, because they always come second in the group to Manchester City and have to face like Real Madrid and get battered by them in the round of 16. But I mean, it's going to be a okay campaign for them. You know, they're not going to look back at it and be like, wow, do you remember that time 2023, 2024 when we were in the Champions League? But yeah, maybe I'm waffling a bit, but you know, RB Leipzig, they'll get through the group pretty standard. Red Star Belgrade, I put them there because I like their kit. I do not know enough about Young Boys and Red Star Belgrade to be rating them in the Champions League group. I'm sorry, I don't have the most diverse ball knowledge in the world, but Red Star Belgrade and Young Boys, I think no matter what, both of these teams are getting knocked out to Manchester City and RB Leipzig. Both of their teams just haven't got enough notable and competitive players to be beating out RB Leipzig and Manchester City in the group stage, in my opinion. But I do hope I'm wrong. I hope they prove me wrong, and you know, some of their teams get, you know, thrown onto the spotlight because they have such a great season. But that's just my opinion, and yeah, that's my prediction for Group G. And now for Group H, we have Barcelona, Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Royal Antwerp. And this group I will also be keeping the same. Barcelona in first, you know, they are La Liga champions, champions of Spain rather. They had a brilliant season last season. They're going to come in to the Champions League thinking maybe this is the year that they can go back to winning Champions Leagues. Maybe, maybe not, who knows. They are one of the favourites, definitely, in this competition. They have such an incredible squad. You know, Araujo, De Jong, Gavi, Pedri, ter Stegen, just a couple of names off the top of my head. You know, all of these world-class players that are really going to give everyone else a big challenge in the Champions League. And I think a lot of people are going to struggle against Barcelona. And I do think they'll walk this group. I think it's not even going to be close. You know, recently we have seen Barcelona face some upsets in the Champions League. I don't think it will be the same this season. I think they're going to walk this group. They're going to win this group by comfortably, you know, 6 points in it, and they'll be very happy with their result. In second position, I have Porto, second best Portuguese team last season, and I think they are better than Shakhtar Donetsk. They are better than Royal Antwerp. They have a better squad. They brought in a couple players, but you know, their squad is generally just as good as it was last season. And it's just going to be a standard second place finish for them in the group stage. I think nothing more to be said about that, nothing too crazy. But in second place, I'm going to go with Porto. Third place, Shakhtar Donetsk. Again, don't know too much about Shakhtar Donetsk and Royal Antwerp. I know, obviously, you know, I know their squads, but I don't know too much about which team is going to finish above which. If I was comparing them, I couldn't weigh them up properly. But I'm going to say Shakhtar Donetsk finish third over Royal Antwerp, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Hopefully no one gets too offended over it. Let me know what you thought about these predictions in the comment section below. And I will be coming back to review them after the group stage is done. And I'll be doing my predictions for the round of 16, the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the final. And it should be a good time. And you know, fingers crossed Arsenal can go far in the competition. I'm really rooting for us, obviously, because I'm an Arsenal fan. But I do think we've got a decent chance this season, and it'll be very interesting. I think there's going to be a very competitive Champions League. Some big games. You know, we could get Milan Inter in the round of 16 again. Imagine another Milan derby. We could get Arsenal Bayern. You know, are we going to get revenge? I would love to see a game like that. Real Madrid Barcelona in the semi-final, something like that. All of these things could happen, and it's just going to be because all of these big teams are back to where they should be, and it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm very excited for this Champions League campaign. But let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with these group stage predictions in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.